The 950 JDJ. The 950 JDJ is the most powerful rifle in the world. It was developed by SSK Industries and J.D. Jones, which is where the rifle cartridge gets its name. It's capable of propelling a 2,400 grain bullet at 2,100 feet per second. The diameter of its bullets is 0.950 inches, and its case length is 2.75 inches. Most bullets also end up around the 3,600 grain mark to add to the power, with each one being custom-made and costing up to $40 each. But who would want such a powerful rifle like the 950 JDJ? The rifle was created as a custom order from a client who wanted an extremely powerful weapon capable of shooting cast bullets. Surprisingly, although it is a novelty creation, the company behind the rifle and its ammunition actually managed to get it deregulated under a sporting use exception, even though the bullets are almost double the size of .50 caliber rounds. This means that it has the same certification as any other Title I rifle and can be used by any American citizen who fits the requirements over the age of 18. That doesn't mean that anyone should fire one though, as the massive power possessed by the 950 JDJ is mirrored in its mighty recoil. And as a result, those who use it need to take various precautions, including scopes, bipods, and other support and peripherals that can handle the intense load. Despite getting it deregulated, the 950 JDJ was never meant for mass production. In fact, only 3 rifles were ever made, and SKS stopped making the ammunition for them in 2014. If you want to buy one of the 3 rifles, just know that they cost a pretty penny. At the time of construction, the rifles were reportedly worth $8,000. But when the very first rifle to be made, nicknamed Fat Mac, hit the auction, it fetched $12,650. The punt gun. There is one gun that was so deadly that it was banned from being used in 1860 in most states. The good news is that it is only dangerous if you're a duck. Ducks were incredibly popular in the early 19th century, being needed both for their meat and their feathers, which were used in things such as soft furnishings and even women's hats. Demand was so great that hunters tried to find a way to be able to kill multiple ducks at once, rather than one at a time with regular hunting firearms. This is where the punt gun comes in. Measuring in at over 8 feet long, the gun required at least 2 people to hold it on land. It was powerful though, capable of using over a pound of ammunition with each shot to kill up to 100 ducks and other waterfowl in just one single shot. However, the punt gun was so large and so powerful that using it would be a problem. Special punt boats were developed just to support the gun's weight, as well as one hunter to operate it. The water would also help with the recoil of the gun, just propelling the punt back several feet rather than knocking 1 or 2 men potentially off their feet. Hunters became incredibly efficient at using the punt gun. Working together in groups of up to 10 people, they would all go out onto the water and encircle the flocks of ducks, coordinating their shots so that they all fired at the same time for maximum impact. But this method ended up being too effective. Hunters could easily kill 500 ducks in this way. A hunter named Ray Todd claimed that he and 3 other men were able to kill over 1,000 ducks in one night, with the entire flock being around a half-mile long in mass. And there is records to prove it. It didn't take long for the duck and waterfowl population in general in the US to be completely decimated by this hunting practice. So much so that laws were put into place to limit the transport of game at first, before a full ban on the use of punt guns and market hunting came into force in 1918. Today, there are still around 100 punt guns left over, although it is illegal to fire them in the States. In the UK, though, they still see use, although not for hunting. Instead, thanks to the sheer power of the guns, they make for quite a spectacle, which caused Queen Victoria to ask for a punt gun salute to celebrate her Diamond Jubilee back in 1897. This was then mirrored in 2012, when for her Diamond Jubilee, Queen Elizabeth II was also given a 21 punt gun salute. Have you ever heard of the punt gun or seen one in person? Let us know in the comments down below, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button while you're at it. Number 3, Project Babylon. It's not often that a country is able to make a supergun. However, one country that came close was Iraq, with the construction of Big Babylon. In 1981, Iraq was at war with Iran, and it needed firepower to help in its offensive. The then defense secretary for the country was Saddam Hussein, who contacted known arms dealer and gunsmith Gerald Bull to create artillery weapons for them. Bull accepted, and his designs were critical in the country's victory over its neighbor. One of the main draws about getting Bull on his side was the fact that he had been part of the HARP, High Altitude Research Project, carried out by the US and Canadian governments during the 1960s. Even though the project was scrapped in 1967, thanks to the advent of the Vietnam War, Bull still kept a passion for space-related machines and weaponry. That's why, when in 1988 Iraq paid him $25 million to begin Project Babylon for them to create the very first space gun, Bull really couldn't refuse. The project involved creating 3 different superguns, 2 full-sized 1,000mm caliber guns named Big Babylon, and a smaller prototype that was only 350mm, Baby Babylon. The plan was to mount Big Babylon on a hillside, as the barrel would need to be over 511 feet with a 3-foot bore and would weigh 1,510 tons, making it far too big and too heavy to transport anywhere. It would be the largest supergun ever built, dwarfing any other previous project attempts, such as those constructed and planned by the German forces during World War II. The potential for Big Babylon was huge. Not only was it able to fire 1,322-pound rounds over 621 miles, meaning that Iraq could easily fire at Iran and its capital Kuwait from well within their own borders, but the supergun could also launch a 440-pound satellite into orbit. Although the capability to do this was there, the problem was getting the charge of the weapon right, as it would need a sustained release thanks to the sheer length of its barrel. The recoil of the gun would also have been over 27,000 tons. That's a force equivalent to a nuclear bomb. It would create an earthquake whose tremors would be felt and registered across the world. Had these problems been worked out, the cost of launching satellites into orbit could have been drastically reduced. Big Babylon could launch a satellite at a cost of $1,727 per kilogram inflated to current rates, while the current costs today from NASA stand at around $22,000 per kilogram. In May 1989, the prototype supergun Baby Babylon was ready. The 135-foot-long gun was mounted on a hillside to begin testing and would be capable of a range of 466 miles. However, Project Babylon would soon come to an abrupt end. On March 22, 1990, as Gerald Bull entered his apartment in Brussels, he was shot twice in the head and 3 times in the back. The gun was silenced, and there was no one around to see what happened, so no one knows who Bull's killer was, or perhaps who they worked for. There were many theories as to who may have been behind this assassination. The prevailing theory is that it was Mossad, the Israeli intelligence agency, not because of the supergun, but the other work Bull was doing to increase and improve Iraq's ballistic missile program. However, there were also plenty of other nations and agencies that may have wanted Bull dead, including the US, the UK, South Africa, and even Iraq itself. After his death, all work on Project Babylon stopped, so we have no idea what these superguns would truly have been capable of. The fact remains, though, that had the project been completed, it would have been quite literally earth-shaking. Schwerer Gustaf. The Schwerer Gustaf, conceived in the 1930s by Germany, emerged as the largest cannon of World War II. It was designed in response to the formidable Maginot Line, an extensive defensive barrier that stretched along the border between France and Germany, fortified and closely guarded. With the intent of invading France in their minds, Hitler's Nazi government reached out to Gustav Krupp, a leading figure in weapon and steel manufacturer in Germany. The specification given to Krupp was that the weapon should be able to destroy a 1-meter thick layer of steel or up to 7 meters of reinforced concrete. In 1937, Krupp was ready to show his designs, which were received by Hitler himself. Pleased with the concept, Hitler provided Krupp with 10 million marks and asked him to make sure that the construction was complete by spring of 1940, when they would finally attack the Maginot Line. Unfortunately, the construction of the Schwerer Gustaf took a lot longer than was anticipated. The main issue was in the construction of the barrel, which had to be made to specification and be able to handle the immense power and speed of the projectiles used. Thankfully, though, the gun was not needed for the assault on the Maginot Line, and the German army got through the French defenses with just their current power alone. At the end of 1940, Schwerer Gustaf was finally complete, and in early 1931, a test firing of the weapon took place at the Rügenwald Range on the Baltic coast, an event that was watched by Hitler himself. The weapon was immense and far bigger than any other railway gun that had ever been constructed up to this point. The 1,350-ton machine was 141 feet long, and so unlike other railway guns that could operate from a single carriage, Schwerer Gustaf had to be transported in pieces and assembled on site. This was no quick endeavor either, which was found out when Schwerer Gustaf was given its first deployment in the war when it was used in the siege of Sevastopol in 1942. It took a team of 1,420 men around 3 weeks to put it all together once it arrived. However, the reward seemed to be well worth it. Schwerer Gustaf bombarded the city of Sevastopol across a 47-kilometer range, firing down highly explosive shells that weighed 4.7 tons. The force behind the shells delivered by Schwerer Gustaf were so great that one of its 7-ton concrete-piercing shells managed to penetrate 100 feet into the ground before it detonated and took out an underground ammunition store. Although only 50 shells were fired, this was far more than enough to bring Sevastopol to its knees. Despite taking so long to build and so much effort being put into its construction, Schwerer Gustaf's time on the battlefield during World War II was incredibly short-lived. It's recorded as having also been used in 1944 in firing shells into Warsaw, but accounts on this vary, so it's never been confirmed that it was used at all. Aside from this mention, Schwerer Gustaf just seemed to disappear. It's heavily believed that it was destroyed by German troops in April of 1945 to stop it from falling into the hands of the enemy troops. To support this, pieces from Schwerer Gustaf were found on April 22nd, after which point the remains were taken by Soviet engineers. After this point, the massive supergun was never heard of again. Feifer Ziliska 600 Nitro Express. The Feifer Ziliska 600 Nitro Express is the most powerful handgun in the world. The handgun is so strong because of the bullets it's designed to carry. The 600 bullets were originally crafted in 1899 and used in the hunting of the largest beasts on land, African elephants. Thankfully, the killing of these majestic beasts has been outlawed, but it didn't stop arms manufacturer Feifer from being able to think up a new use for them when they were commissioned by Swiss man Mr. Ziliska to build a one-off weapon. The 600 Nitro Express Magnum revolver, designed in the style of the Old West, is a single-action firearm with a 5-round capacity. Its superior construction strength compared to a double-action revolver stems from the robust base frame supporting the cylinder. Although it has been built to be as sturdy as possible, the 600 Feifer Ziliska still needs a lot of support when firing thanks to the sheer amount of recoil generated by its powerful ammunition. It's not that the recoil will blow you away, although it does pack a punch, but more the sheer weight of the pistol itself at 13 pounds, which is used to counterbalance this force. As a result, most people who fire it will do so on a bench clamp or resting it on sandbags that can help to support it. When it comes to the destructive power of the Feifer Ziliska 600 Nitro Express, it does not disappoint. It's able to easily pierce through 10 millimeters of steel plate from 36 feet away as if it were nothing. If you want one for your own, though, you'll have to be prepared to spend a pretty penny. Feifer will make one of these on a custom order, but it will set you back around $20,000. And if the Feifer Ziliska 600 seems too powerful for you, they do make one that is chambered for the .458 Winchester Magnum instead, which is the second most powerful handgun in the world. Thanks for watching. Which one of these powerful firearms impressed you the most? Let us know in the comments down below. And don't forget to subscribe and hit that thumbs up button if you enjoyed our video today. We'll see you next time. Bye for now.